Hello and welcome to the Deep Three podcast. I don't think I've ever hosted it before, but I'm your co-host Sam, and the one and only Swami. Sometimes I'm called man of many names. All right, no one knows my actual name. Only Kevin knows, and probably Matt. But I am joined by the one and only the big KOB. What's going, my guy?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Pretty good, pretty good. I'm digging the background. Some sad endings, which we'll talk about later. But it seems like Brett Brown's really on your ass right now. Like, what's he telling you? What's he telling you, man?
I should have got another job.
Basically. But I mean, as you can tell by my background photo, which we'll talk about later as well, uh, pure excitement.
Warm excitement.
Yes, my very neutral excitement about it. Clearly, Matt's not with us. He's being an adult and decided that he didn't want to join us and join my excitement as shown right here. But we got a lot of NBA updates to talk about here, so let's just jump into it real quick. But before we do, because I just completely lied and forgot, instead of Matt's question of the day, it's my question of the day. The Kevin O'Brien, is Luka Doncic a top 5 player in the NBA?
I would say he's around number 5. I think he is. I think our biggest question mark with him before was, okay, yeah, he's like this in the regular season, but playoffs are a different game. Mm-hmm. The man's proven us wrong. Proven that he can do playoffs just like he was the quickest to, 70 points in playoffs?
Yes, sir.
Anyone or whatever? Yeah, he's number 5, I'd say, but top 5.
Number 5. No, I definitely agree. I think I'm probably close to there, maybe number 4. And we'll talk about it a little later. But what Luka Doncic has done for someone his age, for someone that just became old enough to drink legally in America, Kevin, what have we been doing with our lives? Rookie mistake by us, okay? Yeah, very rookie mistake.
Why did we do anything with our lives? Why did we get actual jobs? Like, that's just...
The key was not to go to college. The key was to be uneducated, be very good, and if I was maybe a foot taller, look, you already had a head start, man. You're taller than me, all right? I'm a short man here. If I was a foot taller, I told my parents, if I was a foot taller, I would not have gone to college. I would have just trophy kid me. I promise you, it would have been a great time.
No, but you've seen me try and shoot a basketball. It's not something anyone wants to see ever.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've seen this man shoot a couple times. It's impressive. I'm not gonna lie. It's quite the talent. Kids got shot. But all right, let's get into the NBA updates. And I think the first one to talk about the draft lottery. I don't know if you watched it or saw the results, but your favorite team, the team that we've shown the most on this entire podcast, probably tied with the Utah Jazz. Because I don't think we said a good thing about the Utah Jazz at all. And we'll talk about them for once later in this podcast. But the Minnesota Timberwolves, number 1 pick, followed by the Warriors second, and the Hornets the third. And I believe the Bulls were the 4th pick, which we'll also just talk about in a little bit. But if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, who am I drafting number 1 overall?
Lamelo Ball. I don't know what you're talking about. It's tough. I mean, I don't know. I think Anthony Edwards is definitely a top tier draft pick, but I don't know if they exactly want that or not. I mean, I think you got to go with him just because he's the best out of the draft class, but that's not saying that much. I don't think the draft class is that good. So I can't say with confidence like, oh yeah, Anthony Edwards is the pick to go with. You gotta get him. If you don't get him, you lost the draft. Like, no, it's like an NBA 2K like preloaded draft where all of the top like 10 picks are like, okay, they're like C plus B minus players. Like, you could do well with most of them, but most of them probably won't be like being stars right away. I don't think. I don't know.
For sure. I feel like this kind of class it's weird where it's more like stacked in the middle where these
Yeah.
teams where these players can be really good from like a pure support standpoint and probably over the year maybe some of them will actually become all-star level, but it seems like the top maybe 5 7 picks are just seems so questionable that like you couldn't really go wrong with either of them, but you're not really sure what their potential could be. um, my problem is with having LaMelo Ball in Minnesota is that look, it's a ball family thing. Give him the ball, he's going to keep the ball. It's Kobe shit, but he won't make the shot, you know. um, and the thing is with that team is like you already have someone like that named D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah,
Who,
exactly.
like, don't get me wrong. Like, did they really win that trade? Like, I feel like the Warriors still won that trade. Like, they got the second pick in Wiggins, and they're probably going to dump both for like a Bradley Beal or something. You know, someone that can just. They just need shooters at this point. Think about it: Curry, Bradley Beal, Clay, Draymond, and then who cares at center? No one cares about the center position. All right, they pick anyone at center, and they're good.
That's the thing, though. If they get the Wiseman, the center in the draft, who's like
Oh,
top 5 or whatever,
yeah.
then they actually have a center who could be good. But regardless, like you said, no one cares about center. If you have a starting 4 that can all shoot threes at like 45%, like who cares?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, exactly. At that point, it's like from a star standpoint for the Warriors roster, it's like, what did you need for the past like 10 years? You never had a star center. Like you had a Bogut, you had JaVale McGee. Don't get me wrong; they're like okay players, but they're not like compared to the superstar caliber that you have, like with Steph Curry, Clay, and then all stars with Draymond. Um, it'd be really interesting to see if they actually invest towards a center that can actually play compared to like what they've had in the past. But I'm kind of curious. Do you think LaMelo Ball would be a better fit for the Chicago Bulls, just with how they're shaking up the entire organization, realistically?
I I don't know. I want them. I would actually like that because I think Kobe White is good. Don't get me wrong, love him. I think he was a great draft pick and a good fit for us. But I think with shaking everything up,
Mm-hmm.
I think if we can get LaMelo, I wouldn't be mad because I think guard's the way to go. Like, I think maybe you keep Markkanen as a big guy, but even then, I would rather have more good or mid-tier guards than having like 4 or 5 okay big men, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so if you can get LaMelo and maybe even trade someone away, whether that's I don't know. I don't want to trade Wade away or anything like that, but I think I wouldn't be mad if they ended up with LaMelo. I, but at the same time, I would probably say that around anyone because we're just in such a shit place.
No, that's fair. And I think the reason I think LaMelo Ball would be a great fit is because there's no face to that franchise yet. Like we saw that with the Knicks, and they got RJ Barrett, but who's kind of starting to build his reputation.
Yeah.
But I think it's big shoes to fill in like, which is surprising to say because it's the New York Knicks, but like just for like being New York, it's like we think about the greats, we think about Patrick Ewing, like Charles Oakley, and kind of stuff like that. That you're like, who could fill up the shoes? And I mean, it's even worse for like a Chicago Bull where your greatest guard of all time, Michael Jordan, is like the backbone of all basketball,
Yeah.
and you're here trying to put in Zach LaVine, dropping like 40-point losses at this point. But it'd be nice to see like an actual face I can associate the Bulls with.
And that's a good point too, because I don't think Kobe White is that person. I think last year we were, at least me and Matt, were pretty hyped up about him, and I think he's still a good pick. I still think they made the right decision in that pick, but I think he is a good shooting guard. I don't think he's going to be a leader. I don't think he's going to be a playmaker that much.
Yeah.
You know what? I am hoping I get proven wrong, but if we could get someone like LaMelo who has had the media on him for his life, basically,
Yeah.
since like in middle school, basically, I I think he's much more ready to take on that leader responsibility. I think Kobe White isn't it. Zach LaVine yeah, it probably isn't it. So I definitely think that's a good point that I didn't really even think of.
And I think that's only going to work if they get a coach that's been in the game for a while. Like when you, if you, okay, think about this: if you get a Mike D'Antoni to maximize Lamelo Ball's offensive game, like basically build baby Harden at this point, like
That's all I want. That is all I want is Mike D'Antoni. And then even if we don't get Lamelo Ball, again, like I said, I think it was like last episode or something. Like, Mike D'Antoni is beautiful for this team, I think.
beautiful, my friend, beautiful, for sure. So I guess from this lottery standpoint, I think we know who the winner was. Like, well, I don't even know if we know who the winner was. Let's talk about that. Who do you think won this draft in terms of placement?
I think the biggest one, I think this is going to be a weird choice, but I think it's Golden State, honestly, just because of the fact that Golden State already has a good team, and then they're getting the second overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think that gives them an even bigger advantage. I mean, obviously, it's huge for Minnesota to have the first pick, 100%. And even Charlotte, I mean, I'm glad that they have a top 3 pick, too, because they've been trashed for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this will help them a bit. But I think really Golden State is the one that's going to be they're coming off of injuries to have another focus, I guess, on their team. That's going to be this new rookie that's the second overall pick. I think that's going to be huge for them.
For sure. And I think going along the lines of what we were talking about, it's like even if you don't want to keep that rook, he's a trade asset at this point. And to package it for something like I said, like a Bradley Beal, even what I'm thinking, maybe like even a CJ McCollum, like to steal that. Like I know it'll be like we're playing small ball again, but like small ball with the Warriors worked. Like we saw that they won the title with it.
CJ would go? Do you think he would? I mean, I guess I don't know if he would necessarily have a choice, but
hey man, look, when you're getting paid like 20 mil a year, I go anywhere. And look, it's Portland to like San Francisco. That's the life. All right, it ain't Oakland. Okay, we doing better now. We moving up. And it's a brand new arena, and it's like, and I just feel like that Portland, as much as I love them, they just don't progress far enough, like ever. It's just like a huge disappointment at that standpoint, where it's like I love the like continuity of this team, but they just don't progress for some reason.
I think it's frustrating being in Portland because you almost always end up with like a 7th or 8th seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you end up at that fringe seed. And then you have to first round face the first seed, or first or second seed, who's always a Lakers, a Clippers, a Raptors, like whatever. And then it's just they're not good enough to win a full series against a team like that. They're good, they're really good, but that's tough.
Yeah, and I think they're like one of the true like chip on their shoulders kind of team, whereas like they always have to grind it out no matter what it is. And I honestly, that team is actually pretty well built once you got Nurk back in the lineup. We'll talk about it a little later on in this podcast, but like that team totally revolutionized from like how their season went. Once they got Nurk back, like that's that big man presence almost simulates like Jokic from like just a distraction standpoint. Maybe not as good as Jokic from a playmaking standpoint, but rather of like a true center that can just take hits. Pat Co's get money at that point. I mean, that's it. Put on a T-shirt, all right? We're going to get that on a T-shirt soon, all right? It's going to happen, but we got the winner. Who's the loser of this draft?
I think this should be a unanimous decision. I think New York Knicks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, they had decent odds, and they got 8th pick. That's rough. That's
oh my god.
You hate to see it. You hate to see it.
Honestly, I think I was going to say the Knicks as well. Depending, see, the thing is, they had the worst lottery odds at the moment, but I think in the long term, I think they're still built for success because they at least have an RJ Barrett, or they have at least a new future. I don't know if it's good, but at least it's new, and at least things are starting to break. Similar to the Bulls, like these two like management systems that just never change for almost decades, and they're like, okay, finally we're going to change it up, and so that's a great sign. The team I'm concerned with is the Cleveland Cavaliers, the worst city in America. Okay, I'll definitely agree. What is with this team? Like what is it even composed of? You have a center that can only play as a inside center of Andre Drummond. Don't get me wrong. Uh, I'm going along with the James Harden line, but when you're 7 feet tall, I hope you can play good defense. I'm just saying, like, it's like kind of your job at that point, just be big.
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert at this point. I mean, Giannis. No, I'm just kidding. Giannis is amazing.
Dang.
Um, Giannis, we love you. Milwaukee gang, what's up? Um, but what, they have an injured Kevin Love that probably misses more than half the season. Don't get me wrong. We love Kevin Love. Kevin Love, come to the podcast eventually one day, maybe when we're 35 or something, whenever that happens. But I just never see that man healthy on the court. As much as like as a Spurs fan, I would want that guy in my team. But if I put him on, he has a glass jaw. Like this guy's just like straight up glass and he's gonna be broken. I don't even know who's on this roster. Like I actually generally have no idea. Like Larry Nash Jr. Like I don't know when he was. I think he's actually their best player stat wise, which is like really sad to say.
Oh, good.
They completely broke that team. Like Jordan Clarkson got traded, and he's playing phenomenal for Utah. Like,
see, that's what I'm worried about. This is a stretch, but I'm kind of worried about that with the Clippers. Like you put in all this effort to make a championship run team, and you have all these stars, and then what happens when Kawhi or Paul George don't want to be on the team anymore? And everyone else also is like, well, I don't want to be on a team if and I'm scared that it could be reminiscent, not the same because Cleveland is bad, but reminiscent of like LeBron leaving Cleveland, you know?
No, for sure. And I mean, like, and I think it comes down to like your ownership, just like how they keep saying they're so involved, but they're involved in such the wrong way. At some point, you let the GM do the GM's work. Like, for example, the Sacramento Kings, like Vivek Ranadive is like one of the most garbage owners I've ever seen. To keep like, we love Lottie as a player, but he should never have been in player management at all. That guy did a horrendous job. He's gone now. He finally stepped down. He stepped down, but realistically, he's going to be fired. You know, that's the whole protocol. But yeah, I mean, I hope this next like I once again I hope this next team becomes really good and famous again. I want like those famous juggernaut teams to like be really good again. Like just how famous they were over the years, just to be like shameful now. Think about it, the last time they were in the playoffs was when Carmelo was there. That was like the 8th seed. Like it still wasn't that good. And for the East, like I don't know how bad you could be to do that. But we'll see. We'll see. Really bad draft, to be honest. And like I said, I think there's gonna be a lot of sleepers. Our favorite term, and anytime we play 2K, the sleepers and the Euro stash. That's the way to do this, guys. That's how you win.
All day.
Stash 32, like stash like 31 first round picks for 1 year, and then you good for life. But on some sadder news, some very sad news in the city of brotherly love. Brett Brown finally gone. 8 years in the making. The man, I feel like he's had the same face of like disgust. He's always been like utter disgusted, like all the time. Um, he had basically was a part of the Hinkie process and the amount of tanking this team has done to build such a roster that became so lackluster in the long run. From a coaching standpoint, who do you think is the best fit? I'm hearing there's a lot of love for Ty Lue around the whole league. But I think we can both agree, and I think even Matt agrees, that Ty Lue, what did you do to get such popularity? You won a title because LeBron said, get on my back, I'm going to carry us to the title? Like, I feel like at that point it's not that hard to win the title. But who do you think would be the best fit for this roster, just right from the get-go?
I have a tough time saying Tyler, just because I'm not hype on the Tyler train, and I think he's definitely overrated. I think I don't know. There's not a lot of good fits that I really like. I think one thing I've seen floating around that I'd be interested in because it's totally polar opposite. And I'm not a hype man on this guy at all, but it's totally polar opposite from where Brett Brown was. Stan Van Gundy. Totally. I don't even know if I like it, but it's almost so much different that it could work, because obviously Brett Brown hasn't been working and this whole process hasn't been working. So maybe someone like Stan Van Gundy out of like left field kind of thing might be good. He literally, I am reading this article right now. Called the process embarrassing multiple times.
No,
I think you need something to shake everything up in Philly, because they've clearly been on a decline for a little bit, and it's been subtle, but I think it's been there. And I don't think Ty Lue is going to be the one to turn that around.
For sure. And I think you actually kind of just like blew my mind. I was just like, oh, I feel like he's going to talk about the obvious, possible coaches. But then this guy throws in Stan Van Gundy. Well, I actually really enjoy, especially during his Orlando years, because he really preached defensive effort. That's what got him to the finals. Yes, they lost to the Lakers, but I mean, he made Dwight Howard into like an elite defender at that point. I mean, let's be real. Like, Dwight Howard is one of the best defenders at that time. I hated him how the way he played offense, but from a defensive standpoint, the guy palms his blocks. Okay, that was grotesque. And the thing with this Philly team is that they have defensive players that don't play defense. Like Joel Embiid has like one of the worst like defensive like standards by any like center. Ben Simmons is like, if you think about it, Ben Simmons is actually a better defender than obviously like an offensive player. Like, he's a playmaker, but he's not much of a scorer at that time. Right? He plays way better defense.
Yeah.
Matisse Thybulle, like, get that guy going. Tobias Harris, like, you guys, they have like the lankiness to do it. Even Al Horford, but they just didn't utilize it. I just don't know. I just don't get why they just didn't change. And that was something Brett Brown never did. Was that he never really forced these players to. I mean, realistically, to him, these kids to change, and he reminds me of Scott Brooks, where he never put the blame on the players, rather blame himself, and that's why he got fired. When you start putting the blame on yourself, and look, you're getting paid way less than any of these players. All right, you got to throw them under the bus because they have a longer future than you will.
Sadly. I think Gundy would do that real fast. He would be like, Joel, you're not doing your work. You're not doing your work. You're a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Call those people out.
Exactly. And I guess my fear with having like a Stan Van Gundy or like a Tom Thibodeau is rebuilding their former teams, as we saw with Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota, when he just tried to rebuild that amazing Bulls roster, but like 5 years later, when everyone's kind of broken and like not that great anymore. Don't get me wrong, Jimmy was good. He's not great, and even now he's still good. That team is overall good, I think. Yeah. But I think the fit for me with this, this is tough, because I feel like if we're not going to play defense, we have to maximize offense. And I feel like Mike D'Antoni has to be. I know we keep saying Mike D'Antoni, but he's the offensive juggernaut king at this point. Like, this guy knows what he's doing, like, in terms of pure offense. Can he win you a title? Can he get you past the first round? No promises, but what else is new in Philly at this point, right? Like, you're not going to get that far anyways, let's be real. You just need to make sure that you're just selling tickets at this point. Philly, you already got your title. You got your Super Bowl title with the Eagles. You're good, okay? You're good for the next, 30 years at this point.
I like it.
But what else do you think has to change with this? Do you think we need to break up this roster? Because we both can agree that we definitely had higher expectations for this team. And for myself, I thought this was a final contender team, and they got swept. Yes, Ben Simmons did not show up, but the Joel Embiid's work effort was horrendous. When a guy gets tired, your superstar should never get tired. If he wants to win, he goes out and does not get tired. But the thing that pisses me off for any center is when they do a post up and then they fade away at the mid range. You're 7'2", 250 pounds. Man up! Get these guys on the block, push them down, dunk on these hoes. How many times would they emphasize this? It's a simple 2K rule. If you can do it in 2K, you can do it in real life. I promise you. Okay, I promise you. When you're 7'2", you can be big. Okay, you can be big and dunk it.
You want to know who does the post up to fade away from 15 feet? Kawhi Leonard. Can you shoot like Kawhi Leonard? No? Okay, then post him up and get under the basket and make an easy layup. Get here with this fadeaway bullshit. Like, I don't want to see that.
Man, it is so bad. And I think the problem with this roster is not even the two players with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. It's the overpayment of Tobias Harris. The man got $124 million. Are you serious?
I love
Like,
me some Toby, but man, you could have gotten 2 or 3 really good players with that money if you didn't spend it on Toby. Like,
actually, and I heard a report where like Philly said that, oh, we were gonna sign Jimmy Butler to the max, but if he didn't talk to any other teams, and then Jimmy's like, no, like I'm going to. I'm like, why does this report come after you get swept? Okay, like why does that come out now? You know?
ugh.
And I think along the lines with Tobias Harris will be just a good player. He'll always be like an average good player. He's not worth that money, to be honest. Like he's not, because he gives you very subpar stats, in my opinion, for the money that he's getting paid. Um, and I think along those lines, Al Horford declined so quickly after Boston. Like he was so bad. Like it was horrendous. Like how bad he played this season. And I hate the thing when Joel Embiid's like, "Oh, I gotta get fitter," and then he just comes back like 20 pounds heavier, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, what, is this a joke? And then Ben Simmons, who everyone keeps promising, "Oh, he's gonna shoot threes this season." How many was it? Like three threes this season?
Maybe. I thought it was 2 last I heard. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's like
Less than 5.
exactly, and it's like if when you're a coach, like, don't you think you have to like strain on them? Like you really have to get the real. And he's got like the Boston, like New York. He has the Boston accent where he's like, "You fuck you, okay? We're gonna do what I say, or you benched for life." But when you start taking a backseat to these players, this team had no structure on the core. Josh Richardson, everyone was so injury play. Like I just fire everybody at this point. Like I don't know how bad of a team this was, but it was horrendous. But my last question: do we fuck the process at this point?
100%. I honestly think you do. I think the people on that team are way overvalued, first of all. I think Tobias Harris, even Ben Simmons, right now, as is, I think he's overvalued. He's good. He has a lot of potential, but he's not there yet. He's not shooting threes, and until he is, or until he's just being better offensively, he's not going to be there. I think they take advantage of that overvaluing of their roster and maybe look at disassembling it a little bit. I don't know.
I mean, there were reports from Elton Brand, who is their GM, saying that neither of the two stars, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, are on the trade block. But let's be real. Between us, who's the first one to go?
I mean, for me, it's Ben Simmons. Just because, again, I think right now he's overvalued. So I think you can get someone better than him for him. Whereas Joel Embiid, he is valued accurately, I think, relatively. And so I don't think you couldn't get an advantage on a trade with him. I think you would get someone his skill level if you're doing a 1-for-1 kind of, but you're not going to win out on a trade with Joel Embiid. And so that's more of why I think Ben Simmons should be the first to go. But I don't know.
No, that's fair, because obviously, you know me, I got to dunk Joel Embiid because he's just so injury plagued. I'm just so scared that he gets so overworked for his body that like I need to dump him before like he just becomes shards of glass very soon. But I totally agree with your point that Ben Simmons' trade value is so high. He's so overvalued that if you dump him to a team that's so gullible, or at least maybe not gullible, maybe they just know how to better utilize him. And I was just hearing that maybe Denver could be a potential suitor, which I think might be what they need. They just need a better defensive presence.
Okay.
Like maybe you build a package, possibly dumping Jamal Murray, and maybe Jamal Murray, maybe Michael Porter Jr. and like a protected first round, like a top 20 protected, trade that in, get Ben Simmons. Like, what else do you need? That team could be a real playmaking team that has a lot of potential.
Exactly. I think you can get 2 good people for Ben Simmons and more possibly. So like I think that's the biggest thing of what Philly needs. They just need more good people. Like I'm
No, exactly. And now thinking about like the potential suitors, like what if Ben Simmons goes to the Houston Rockets? Like that's the one thing that the team doesn't have is defense, and I know they don't do it, but like this could be it. That they could be the right piece for them. Um,
who would they give though? Who would they? What would they? Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's gonna be PJ Tucker, man. That's an equal value. Ben Simmons for PJ Tucker. Both are not offensive generators, so produce the exact same stat line at this point. But we'll have to see. I mean, this is probably. I think I might go down and say, and maybe we'll make this the headline for this episode as Sam thinks that Philadelphia is the most disappointing team of the past decade because they've not showed up. The Hinkie process has failed us, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know if it actually has because the Dallas Mavericks got Luka Doncic. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how that works out. But along the lines of coaching, and we talked about it last episode, Brooklyn Nets are genuinely pushing for Greg Popovich because KD is all about the Pop train. Is this even doable? Like for me, it's not. Pop's too old for this shit at this point. I say if he was 10 years younger, yeah, he's all in. But what do you think?
I 100% agree. I want Phil Jackson to coach the Bulls again, but it ain't gonna happen. KD, you gotta reel in what you want and what is realistic. Like, there's plenty of other coaches, maybe not at Pop level, but there's plenty of other coaches that you could get that would be really good. I think there really are a lot of coaches out there that are great, fantastic coaches right now. I don't think. I mean, I think Pop's the best right now, but I think he's also. Why would he leave San Antonio at what is he 73?
He's old. He's old.
I think he's early 70s, and like he's been there 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why would he do that? If he does, props. I would. If I was his age, I would not do that at all. I would either stay in San Antonio at this point. Like
I just don't get this Brooklyn team. It's just like they have all these like really good pieces, and they're just like, okay, we got our two superstars who are just really just like negative people. Like it's just such negative vibes, man. Like we would not be able to exist on that team because we would just be like just not in the move. The vibe check would be so down right now. Like it'd just be not fun.
No, 100%. They're like, oh, yo, we want to like get rid of these people on our team, like basically. Oh, no, we need this coach on our team. Like, oh, we are in control of the team. No, get the fuck out of here. You're the star players, 100%. You are the top two people, but you don't have say in every single thing that this team does. Like, and it just kind of grosses me out that it seems like they just want to control the team entirely, like from top to bottom. And I don't know if that's going to happen.
For sure. I mean, let's be real. When KD was with, I mean, they both had the second in line chair with GSW for Kevin Durant, and for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, I'm sorry, Kyrie, you got drafted, and LeBron, you had your chance when LeBron wasn't there, but you're just shit. Like your team was shit. I'm sorry, but like, there's a clear difference once you had LeBron how good the team was at that point. And it's like, it's not just LeBron as a scorer, but LeBron truly as the playmaker. But how do you utilize every shit player on your team to max out? J.R. Smith got somehow magically better. He made Channing Frye good. He made Richard Jefferson washed up good. Like, he made him very useful. Like, and it's crazy to see like how much one player could do. But Pop ain't leaving, right? If Pop leaves, I don't blame him if he leaves, but like he won't leave. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know how much. I would be curious to see if they pay him more than any other player on that roster. So we'll have to see. But let's get to the real meat of all this. All right, LeBron, the birth of Luka Legend is what I'm hearing now. So as we talked about it, the thing with Luka Doncic, and I think a lot of people think that I hate Luka Doncic. It's not that, but I actually think Luka has to do more because of his background. This kid's been playing since like 14, 15 years old professionally. So for me, I set a higher standard because I've seen European talent. All right, The San Antonio Spurs is the birth of international talent. That's where everything happens. And Luka Doncic, just the way he composes himself, especially before the draft, I was just like, this guy has to be number one. He has to be the number one pick. Like, I don't know how you can mess this up. And they picked DeAndre Ayton. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I guess you could put him on equal tiers at this point. Second pick, Marvin Bagley. And I'm like, that's a mistake. That's just a Vadi. You just got arrogant as fuck because the dad pissed you off. And he has no, he's not LeVar Ball. Okay. He's not going to be in your life the entire time. And you messed that up with Marvin Bagley. And Marvin Bagley could be good. He could be good in the long run, but he's been injured and we haven't seen his potential. And I hope he gets better. And then Atlanta drafts Luka Doncic, only to trade him for Trae Young, who I adoringly love as a player, but I know that he will never be as great as Luka Doncic would be. He will always live in the shadow. I'm sorry, my boy Trae, but I'm gonna have to burn your jersey after this and go invest in a Luka Doncic jersey because what he did against the Los Angeles Clippers, the team that was hyped up to win the championship, with Paul George, who's considered probably the second best defender in the NBA, along with the number one defender of Kawhi Leonard, the Terminator, the robotic genius at this point, wins the game on a buzzer beater. He had this real Kobe fuck you moment where he just like, give me the ball. And we saw how deep that shot was. It was a Damian Lillard like bye-bye shot. That's what he was doing there. And the underlying issue we had with Luka, and it's not even an issue, but rather like we were so hyped up on him last year, we didn't make the playoffs. So we didn't really have a real, in my opinion, I didn't have a real good standard of saying what he can do. But I already had a good idea that this kid's already played men's basketball. He wasn't playing college shit. Okay, college shit is shit. That's why it's college basketball. Okay, they make up their own rule. There's a 30-second shot clock. Like what the fuck? Just make it the NBA standard at this point if you want to create actual athletes. Just saying NCAA, fuck you. I mean, you should pay me at this point, but it's a different story. But Luka's been playing with grown men. And now you're seeing the trend. People are not going to college. They're going to go play in the leagues because that's what they want to focus on, master their skill set at that point. And what Luka did, and I know it's only been a couple games, but what Luka's done in the playoffs so far is unreal, blown out of proportion. And I mean that in a good way. Like the stats he puts up, I thought his stats, and I think we've discussed this before, that his stats would be similar to Russell Westbrook, where he'd just be stat padding and not really contribute to wins. But he's proved us wrong completely on that.
100%.
I know they lost and they're down currently 3-2, but the only guy doing real work on this team is Luka Doncic. I am sorry for that monologue, but I had to just make that very open that Luka Doncic has complete 180, or not even 180. I knew I had optimism, but now he's made a fax machine at this point. Can you get some emojis, editor? Oh wait, that's me. I don't know how to do that yet. We'll figure it out. But facts right here. This kid is Luka Legend. This kid is already on pace to be the greatest player of all time. I can say that right now. Make that another headline. Make it another headline. What were your thoughts on that game, though?
I mean, if you look at every superstar we've had in the past 20 years, let's say, maybe even 30 years, going back to the 90s, Michael Jordan, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, etc. What I want to see them at 21 compared to Luka at 21. I'm sure, yeah, Michael Jordan was definitely being a superstar at 21. Was he putting up 40-point games and winning playoff games single-handedly? I mean, to be honest, probably. Of all the people, probably. Was Kobe doing that? No. Kobe was grinding from day one. He had, like 8 minutes per game or something like that? Mm-hmm. And went on to be the superstar after years of like working hard and working his ass off. Luka comes in here second or whatever year, 21 years old. And he's like, yo, I'm a single-handedly beat the Clippers. Buzzer beater, let's get it. What? He's a top 5 player in my mind, 100%. If KD and Curry are healthy, maybe that shifts to number 6 or number 7, but still, right now he's definitely number 5, if not number 4, on the top 5 players.
All right, so let's just jump right into that right now. Since you want to just get into this heat, who are the top 5 players right now in the NBA, in your opinion?
LeBron.
LeBron, GOAT.
1, no question. I'm not putting Steph Curry or KD on here because they're going to play. I ain't going to. They're currently in the NBA. They ain't a top 5 player. They ain't playing.
They ain't playing, folks. They ain't playing, okay?
I can't even call anyone at Golden State a top 10 player right now because they had what, like 18 wins this season?
It's very bad, very bad.
So LeBron, Giannis, probably Harden.
Okay.
Kawhi, Luka.
Damn, to be honest, I totally forgot about Curry, like just completely. Like I was like my top 5 was like, and I think that there's an interesting reason, and I just think because his game, as much as it was revolutionary, it's not as defining in my opinion. I don't know why. I just don't know why. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think because everyone shoots threes now, it's become like a norm.
Yeah.
For like the Duke, and now not just threes, now even deep shots. Now we got the Trae Young. Now we got Damian Lillard. Now we got Paul George, Luka. I mean, everyone's doing it. So like, what makes it unique at this point? You know.
He will go down for sure as one of the most influential players of all time. But moving forward, is he going to be a top 5 player even? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, I just feel like his lack of diversity in scoring is like a little lackluster, and I think he's becoming a little inconsistent. We're gonna get so much heat from our group chat too about this afterwards, but you know, fuck him, okay, fuck him at this point. I think my tier is kind of close. I'm gonna go with Giannis number 1, and I mean, we saw the kids already got Defensive Player of the Year. He's gonna win MVP, I think, at this point too. What was the last time we heard something like that? It was from The Last Dance. Some kid from North Carolina, MJ did that. Okay, but MJ is a guard, so that's huge respect. Like you don't do that. But I channel some. I don't like saying. I hate doing that channeling. Like he channels the Kobe thing with this, but like I feel like Giannis does channel this Kobe vibe in terms of like, I'm literally going to carry this team regardless of what happens. Like, literally give it to me every possession. I'm going to win this game. And we've been seeing that in the playoffs so far. Yeah, they lost the one fluke to Orlando, but he's been carrying it for this team. It really hurts me because I feel like LeBron is still number 1 just because no one plays this well at 17 years in.
And that's why I put him there. It's just like, when you're the league leader in assists, again, 17 years in, at basically an entirely new team with new people and everything like that, and you're still having that good chemistry with people, having that high of a basketball IQ, that for me, that's it. Giannis is amazing, and he has the best raw skill I have probably ever seen, like, because I didn't actually see Michael Jordan. I saw him like in highlights basically alone. But watching Giannis play, it's insane skill. But watching LeBron think is super, super insane. Like, it just doesn't make sense how someone can have that high of basketball intelligence.
For sure. And I thought I said it really like it only hurts me more and not LeBron because LeBron doesn't know me, but I feel like it hurts me more because I'm like, man, I know all this. Fine wine and dine LeBron here. Like this guy's clearly number 1. And I know people are like, oh, he doesn't have enough titles to do. But like, does really titles matter at the point? It's a team effort at that point. And I'm sorry, when your team is just based on LeBron James, like it's pretty tough to do. Okay. And people are like, oh, but he was in the East and stuff. But yeah, once again, he does have to face a number 1 team in the West to get the title. He beat the 73-9 Warriors. Let's not forget that, okay? And I will say he basically single-handedly won. Kyrie had the shot at that end, but he came back for the 3-1 lead. Like, he's the reason they got that title at the end. My number 3, Kawhi Leonard. I think I just need him to play more games, and I think if he gets a third title, honestly, if he gets a third title with the Clippers, like that'd be unbelievable. Like 3 titles, 3 different years, 3 different teams, like that would be unreal from him. Obviously, a defensive juggernaut, scary hands. The kid can ball out. And I don't know why I keep saying kid because he's older than me, but he's the kid. But now thinking about it, I'm not sure. I feel like this is tough because I didn't think about James Harden at all, and now I'm like, wow, I really love James Harden's like game, and so I'm like, wow, he should be in the top 5. But I'm gonna put Luka Doncic. And I think it's still early to say Luka Doncic, but I know he's been putting up the stats, so we'll see if he progresses further past this round. I think he'll start moving up in our tier in terms of how well this kid can play.
Yeah.
And thinking about it, I'm going to drop KD out of the top 5. KD was my 5. I'm going to drop him out now. James Harden gets 5. You convinced me there. I think James Harden's
Got it.
the definition of what it means to be a true scorer. And once again, I hate to say it, but his game, because he's a guard, truly mimics Kobe Bryant, because he actually is like, give me the ball, I'm literally going to do everything. And then he'll bank on, hopefully you can make a corner 3 at that point.
Yeah.
And he's the kid's from California. The beard is from California. So it's like Kobe was ride or die with him. And the stats he's been putting up in the bubble is unreal too. Like we've been seeing it. Yes, he's been inconsistent so far in the series. But imagine when he's dropping 10 for 12 from 3. Like that's game at that point, right? They beat OKC at this point, but we'll have to see. I mean, I'm glad that there is. I don't want to keep saying passing of torch because it reminds me of Kobe's situation, but I think we see a really bright future because that was my true concern. Is that will we have another LeBron? And to be honest, I think Luka will overshadow Zion Williamson in the long run because I just think Luka's an overall better player at this point in his 2 years. I know I'm jumping too soon off the Zion hype train, but I'm a little skeptical. I hope there's great things coming their way, but I'm a little skeptical.
100%.
But with that, let's jump to the playoffs with our next segment here. All right.